You're listening to Love, Guns and Freedom with Luca Zanna on United States.fm network. There we go, guys. This is Luca Zanna. You're listening to Love, Guns and Freedom on K-Talks 1340 AM and on United States.fm network. Second hour. I don't want to say this is my favorite hour because I like all the hours. The first hour, after all, we talk about freedom, about our rights, how we can take them back. And of course, information and news coming from America and also from around the world. We are facing a global tyranny. The second hour is something that normally I enjoy even a little more. Because most of the time, I really exercise it. I don't just talk about it. Sometimes we broadcast from the shooting range. But the Second Amendment is not about a sport for me. It is not even a hobby. For a hobby, I can look at the stars and count them. That's what I do. But for me, the Second Amendment is a commitment. It's a right, of course, but also is a lifestyle. That's why I live in Arizona. That's why I really believe, I've been looking around the world, everywhere. If I had to live today in Arizona and go anywhere around the world, there is no place I would go. And I could go anywhere I want. I could travel anywhere I want. And I'm not trying to say this because I want to show off, but it's true. I could go what I want, everywhere. But guess what? I love here, Arizona, especially in the middle of nowhere. Why? Because in this place, in this state, human beings, even of course we are semi-slaves, we are not completely free. We understand that. Just look at your property taxes. After all, you're paying the rent, and there are many other reasons. But among all the imperfections that we have, I believe we still have a basic human right that nobody else around the world, maybe another state in the United States, but I think here even better, is the number one state. It's called the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms. And why I'm so excited about this? Because I tell you something, I come from Italy, I was born in Rome. Let me tell you, in Italy, like in the rest of Europe, even in the almighty Switzerland, the people say it's great for the gun rights, and don't get me wrong, it's much better, of course, than all the other countries in Europe. But it is not a right. It is a privilege granted by the government. That's the bottom line. Nothing really changed since the time of the emperors, of the Romans. The kings, the emperors, then they have the little, priest and family stuff, the nobility, and then you have, of course, the enforcers, the soldiers. But the rest of the people, especially the slaves, that were the majority of the people, they didn't have right to have a gun. Of course, there were no guns there, to have even a sword. Okay? And then things continue, during the history with the popes and the kings. And now, of course, in the modern times, it is just another form of socialism, pretty much controlled by the bankers. But that's another story. And still, you don't have the right. So I'm here, and I'm proud to be here. And I want to remind to the world that we in Arizona, we don't have just the First Amendment, but also we have the Second Amendment. Now, when I talk about this hour, normally we talk about, of course, training, and I will talk to you the final part of the hour about some training ideas. I always try to bring you the best guests, instructors, professional people, and of course also about some deals and where to find the cheapest stuff for the best quality stuff. But for me, the most important thing here is also remind to ourselves that we have this right and we exercise it, not just when we go to the range to practice, but also when we go in front of our public servants, who are supposed to be the officials, they want to call them. I call them public servants. I don't care if they are working for the federal government or for the state government or county government. They still work for us. And we remind them that we can go on public land here in any Arizona's city, and we can exercise our First Amendment and Second Amendment on the open, carrying it legally, open carry, and also concealed carry, rifles, handguns, shotguns, and everything in between. That's the bottom line. That's where I'm coming to. I'm coming to that I have a special guest. Sometimes I get so long to get to the point, I know that. But I really like to remind this is an important, introduction. I have a special guest, a man that I've been following many, many years. I never really met him in person. I don't think so. By being knowing about him probably since I moved to Arizona, at least 10 years ago. He's a guy kind of, imagine like a lonely cowboy facing the odds surrounded sometimes by, let's say, a superior number of enemies. And in this case, I tell you, most of the times, I know that he lives in Tucson, Arizona. It's a different part of Arizona, kind of more wild, more surrounded by illegal aliens. But this man by himself is to the ground, exercising his First and Second Amendment many times, reminding to the oppressors, reminding to the illegal aliens, so anybody was trying to infringe on his First Amendment, that he had his Second Amendment. And I tell you, what I've seen on video about this man, you could never done this type of, defending your right in a legal way in any other part of the world. That's why I think he's still around and he can speak about it. And he has a great event that I want to help him out to promote. His name is Roy Warden. Roy, let me shut up, otherwise I'm going to make everybody fall asleep here. Are you there?
I'm there, and you're doing a great job. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to you and to your listeners.
Thank you, Roy. Give me a little introduction about yourself, because, I always follow you all these years, but maybe the listeners don't know about you. I know that you are pretty active. You've been facing alone many times, maybe with a few other friends, but still, in minority in the city of Tucson, challenging the local government, challenging legally, and also try to defend your basic rights. Tell me a little bit about your background, who you are, and what have you been doing the last 10 years or so?
Well, I think the best thing to do is just to start with the last 10 years and not go back to the stuff before, because it takes us too far away from the central issue tonight.
Okay.
And 10 years ago, April 10th, 2006, there was going to be a very big rally in Armory Park by what I call the pro-Raza, or the open border people who demand amnesty and demand continuous open borders. And basically they encourage the entry of illegal aliens to come into this country. And so these are political groups, left-wing political groups, and the local one here in Tucson used to be run, she still runs it, she used to be Pima County legal defender, a Pima County government employee.
Wow.
Her name was Isabel Garcia, and she is the one that runs the local pro-Raza, or the open border movement here in Tucson. And they had 15,000 people that marched into Armory Park, making all kinds of noise and all kinds of declarations. And basically they're saying things like, white people go back to Plymouth Rock. We're going to take this country over. We're going to form a new country called Tucson, and that would be the 10 westernmost states and Mexico all combined together. We're going to create that, and that's the way it's going to be. And so we're asking all these people to come in from Mexico. We're doing all this stuff to create this new nation of Tucson and all of that. So we had declared in the news the day before, sent out a press release, that we were going to come to Armory Park that day. There was basically 15 of us, and we were going to burn Mexican flags in open defiance of this movement, and what I also believe to be the policy of the Mexican government, which is to send poor people here so they may earn money and send money back to Mexico. Mm-hmm. In fact, Mexico earns as much money from what they call remittance money sent home by illegals working here, as much money as they do from the sale of oil. Actually, more now. That was when oil was at its peak.
Wow.
Then it was equal. Now the greatest source of foreign revenue in Mexico is the remittance money sent back by illegals.
Wow. I remember that, by the way. I just moved at the time. I was just fresh, a refugee from California. I remember that. And I was following you on the internet. Of course, at the time we didn't have Facebook, but I got news from different sources. There was like American Border Patrol website and, of course, emails. And I was wow, I was so excited to see, think about it, 15 or a handful of American people there standing alone in a minority, because unfortunately their neighbor is kind of different demographics, and the government, of course, has already been taken over, at least the local government, by these illegal aliens. But still, you had the chance to stand up and exercise your right, something that I remember when we were in California, for example. I was there at Baldwin Park. I'm sure you're familiar with the event. It was Baldwin Park too.
Absolutely.
I was there, and we were about probably the same number, 20 maybe of us, surrounded by 800 or so of these. I want to call them, I don't know. I don't want to use means. I just want to call them what they are. They're pack of cowards. They're pretty much, they think they can use violence, and they will use violence when they can. But the point is, we were unarmed. And the only reason why we didn't get killed, because I believe in God was with us. And of course, we also had a battalion of police try to help us out. And of course, they would try to make a big deal like, we cannot exercise anymore our First Amendment. Otherwise, they're going to send us the bill home. But regardless, the point is, I was so proud when I moved to Arizona, because I say, you know what? Finally, I don't need to beg for the police to stand up for my right, my First Amendment right. And I look at you, and you did exactly, you set the example in a great way, especially starting that time. So I wanted to thank you officially that I never done before.
Well, thank you. And I want to make a great distinction here, because many times people speak of these people saying, well, the Mexicans are doing this. All the marchers in Armory Park, just about all of them, were American citizens who also, many are Hispanic, many were so-called white, but the point is they're all basically pro-communist, open border people. I don't think there was one Mexican illegal there. These people have better things to do than to march in the street demanding rights. They're working, or they're committing crimes, or they're doing whatever they're doing, but they don't make up these movements. It's not illegals themselves. It's pro-communist American citizens.
If I can,
radical people from college. These are the people that run these groups.
Yes, Roy, and it's true. Unfortunately, we have a problem that it is deeper than just illegal aliens, because the indoctrination in our school system is like a few generations away. This didn't start today. But I tell you something. Coming from originally California, and I saw on the street Los Angeles and different situations that we were doing our little peaceful protest. There is a mix. There is a big part of this apologistic, brainwash white kids that they think, they need to, I don't know what happened to their brain, but that's okay. They're free to be stupid. But there is also another part, and it's truly, honestly, what you were saying before. They really believe in the Azatlan movement. They believe this sort of mythological, not even Hispanic, because technically, they think about Mexico, but Mexico, if they really know their history, they've been, let's say, conquered by the Spaniards. So they got a little bit of, they got a little bit of a mess in the history, but they believe in that violence. And I saw, I'm probably you're familiar with there was in front of the 4th of July, the very terrible video that I posted many times were 4th of July 1996, I guess. Correct me if I'm wrong, in front of the federal building in Los Angeles. You remember that video that former Barbara Kopp put together there with Glenn Spencer?
I'll tell you I don't, but I'll say this about Glenn Spencer. Glenn Spencer is one of the pioneers. He was involved in this movement well before anybody else, and then later came the Arizona Minutemen with Chris Simcox and Jim Gilchrist.
Yes,
these were the pioneers of this movement here in Arizona. And so when you speak of those things, I don't know all of the earlier history. I know most of the history starting from 2002 here in Arizona, but stuff that predates that I'm not too familiar with, but I want to learn more as I have a chance to learn more.
I want to send you the video, and I want to remind, I will post again the video of 4th of July, was exactly in front of the federal building, and I also re-uploaded that video. Was produced by America, of course, by Glenn Spencer, and the footage was given by former late Barbara Kopp, a great activist from California, unfortunately gone. And the bottom line was that there were many seniors, there were probably about 100 seniors or so, American people, they were trying to challenge and protest peacefully in front of the federal building, where a judge was overturning a proposition that was going to was going to stop to give a special aid, a special, let's say, tax dollar to illegal aliens for education, okay? So they already did the proposition, already passed, but then the judge overruled. Okay, the worst part was that if you see this video, the act of violence of completely, like you feel like you are in the middle of a war zone, okay? American people be surrounded by young punks, and many of them, I tell you, they were illegal aliens. That's the fact. There were also, of course, the whitewashy, stupid kids from college, but there were a lot of people that they really were there. They were Agustin Cebada in speaking with his Mexican accent, and he said, "Yes, we are here from the Brown Berets, and we're here to take over, and we will kill you." As simple as that. And they did beat them up. And the sad thing was, American people couldn't defend themselves, and there was an order of stand down from the let's say at that point, I think it was Clinton. Yes, and the police did not intervene. You can see on the video, men and women be bloody. I'm talking about bloody, being beaten up with sticks, punched on the ground. And I always was saying, I would like to know if that was happening to people in Arizona, how all that even started it. And I don't think would ever started. That's why I really say, I need to get out of this state, and I want to be still a free human being, and I want to have the right to defend myself and exercise not my First Amendment, but also my Second Amendment. And I remember you, when I saw your photos, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 10 years ago, you had this sort of a little legal perimeter that you used to set up for your special defense area that you feel like threatened if somebody crossed that line. Am I right or wrong?
But here's how it actually came down. The park was absolutely filled with the pro-Raza open border demonstrators, screaming and yelling and carrying on. And there were, in the northern part of the park, right near the street, there was a old shuffleboard court, a cement shuffleboard court that was old and it hadn't been used for years as a shuffleboard court. They have to be maintained. Mm-hmm. And on that shuffleboard court was about 30 or 40 police officers who had kind of gathered there. So what we did when we entered the park, we merely just walked into where the shuffleboard court was, where all the cops were. And guess what? The cops all immediately left. And after they left, a crowd of people surrounded us.
Wow.
They were called but this is good. They were called peacekeepers, and they joined hands, and they faced out, and they had their backs to us in the center, and they're basically trying to keep peace, keeping those people away from us. They said, we don't want any violence, we don't want any of that, so they surrounded us and joined hands, and now we're in the middle of this circle, and in the middle of the circle, we're some of the pro-Raza demonstrators, and we're a whole lot of press people, and they weren't going to leave. And so we were in a pretty bad situation, and I went up to one of the cops, and I said, look, I says, we need some protection here. And he looked at me and he laughed. He said, well, Mr. Warden, you wanted to be here. You said in the media you wanted to be here. Let's see how long you can stay.
Wow.
And he's laughing at me. He thinks it's funny. Yeah, his name was Lieutenant Timpf, Timpf. And so he tells me this. And so I said, guess what, pal? And this is all a matter of court record. Testimony on this has already been offered in court, and so it's a matter of history. And so I pointed down to my fanny pack, which I carried around my waist, and hanging from my fanny pack was a concealed weapon permit. And I said, you see that? And he said, yeah. And I said, you know what it is? He says, what? I said, it's a concealed weapon permit. All of us are packing heat. And we talked this over before we came today, that if these people try to rush us, we were going to stand our ground and we were going to defend ourselves with our firearms, as we have a legal right to do. So if you don't get in there and protect us and they attack us, we'll put 30 or 40 people in the ground today. We'll make it look worse than what Wyatt Earp did at the OK Corral. And when we're done shooting, you'll be standing at your review board and they'll be asking you, why did you let it happen? Why did you not protect that group? Do you see where you're at, Lieutenant Timpf? And I tell him right to his face, and you wouldn't believe the hatred, absolute hatred in his face, because now he knows he has to make a decision. Yes. He defends us or we kill a whole bunch of people. And so about 3 seconds later, he's on his cell phone, and he's calling people, and about 5 minutes later, we hear this military hup, 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 and all of a sudden, all these police officers in formation, they're marching, and they come right into the circle. They enter the circle, and they expand the circle out. Basically, the peacekeepers are expanding out. Now we have room. We're in the middle of a phalanx or a circle of peacekeepers who are backed by police officers, because they know if they don't protect us, we'll start killing people. And so the police.
Let me stop you 1 second,
out.
Roy. Let me start because I know what you were doing. When you say killing, you weren't going to kill anybody. You were going to defend your life and your rights.
Yes.
Because
defend our lives from deadly assault. That's it.
Exactly.
We have a right to defend ourselves.
Exactly.
You see, I'm 68 years old. I was younger then.
Yeah.
But if somebody wants to knock me down and kick me in the face, that's a deadly assault to me.
Exactly.
I don't have to wait for it to happen. I can defend myself from it as it starts to happen.
Exactly.
And that's the point. You have a right to stand your ground and defend your life. life.
Exactly. This is my point, because I want to be sure, I can already see the people that they are, try always to distort words. I'm not an attorney. I'm just a regular guy. But in this case, from the way I look at this, you were there to defend your life and to defend your right. And if somebody tried to harm you, you have the right to defend yourself. That's the bottom line.
Exactly. And it's very simple. People get very complicated about it, but you have the right of speech, which we were exercising, and we had a right to defend ourselves, our Second Amendment right. And even though I'll tell you the truthfully, none of us had weapons. All I had was a concealed weapon permit that was visible. But I told him, we'll kill people to defend our lives if you let it happen. So protect us or stand before your review board. I put him in an impossible situation, and he went ahead and called, and we had reinforcements, and we were protected.
You know what is sad? A police officer, a peace officer, what should be, of course, now they want to call themselves law enforcement. Supposedly, and I know it's true, he took an oath, not just to, of course, our United States Constitution and Bill of Rights, and also to our Arizona Constitution. And among those is to defend our rights, the people's rights, and among those life, and among those the rights, of course, to exercise our basic rights, like, for example, our freedom of speech or redress our grievances. So he failed you right there when he did not want to defend your right. Regardless he agree or not, he doesn't need to agree. He's there, he's a paid peace officer, he's supposed to defend everybody's rights, your rights and also the rights.
Can I interrupt you here? Let me tell you something. Yes, of course he's trained that way, but he was given explicit orders by his commanders, who in turn got explicit orders from the Tucson City Council.
Exactly.
And they said they figured we'd just be pushed out of the park. They didn't dream we would put them on the spot like that. They were told not to defend us.
Exactly.
They were told not to protect us, and so he was following the orders he was given. And this is quite normal in police practice. They take an oath of office, but then when they get hired, when they're in the academy, then they get hired by the police department, and their commanders tell them, okay, you learned all that fancy stuff in the academy. Now you're going to learn to do it the way it works in the real world. We're going to give you orders, and you're going to follow them. And if you don't, you'll look for a job elsewhere.
Yes.
So it's nothing particularly evil. It's just the natural way things are. When you get on the job, now things are different than what you were told when you were in school. And so they were told not to defend us, but they never dreamed we would put them on the spot. They just figured we'd be pushed out and nobody would hear from us again. There wouldn't be any flag burning, and there wouldn't be anything. They didn't dream that I would threaten to protect our lives with deadly force.
And, I'm so glad. I tell you, I know at the time not many people, but I heard, maybe a little too extreme, maybe it's pushing it too much. I say, you know what, right on. And I tell you why. Because, rights are like muscles. Or you use them or you lose them. And you proved that day, that, you can be one against 1,000, doesn't matter. In the state of Arizona, even with the little problems that we have and things that we can improve, of course, but we have still a basic right that nobody else, try to do that stuff in California, in New York, in any other states. I don't even know Nevada, seriously. In this state, even when the government goes out of control, because that's very much a reason they should be all sued. And there was also some legal action you were trying to do, because all this city council and this member of the city, they are really evil people to give these orders. And I tell you, I know that man probably wanted to take care of his pension, but guess what? Shame on him, because he took an oath. And as a man of honor, you took an oath, you fulfilled that oath. And if somebody's trying to endanger your life or try to infringe on your rights, he had the obligation in front of himself, of his soul, and of course also about the oath that he took to defend you, and says, sorry, City Council, I'm the policeman here, and I'm defending this man's rights. But I'm glad at least it worked out right. All I'm saying, thank God, few of you guys, 10 years ago or so, did what I think really set an example to the rest of the state, that they can become corrupt as much as they want in the police officers or in the different type of city council. But here in Arizona, we are the last line of defense, ourselves, our people, with the people. So tell me a little bit now after that. I know you had some, I don't want to go too deep into the legal ramification. I know you had to face a different situation, or probably you sue also the city. How ended up all this mess? It was like a soap opera almost. I remember it was very long.
Well, let me continue just for a little bit, and then we'll get on to what's going to happen Friday.
Yes.
What happened is after that, Isabel Garcia and a bunch of other people, they went down and they complained to the city council because they said, we had a permit to be in the park and we don't know why you let Roy Warden come in to a place where we had a permit. So we want you to arrest him. And so they came out 2 days later and they arrested me.
Yes.
And I was charged with arson. I was charged with an arson subset,
Wow.
reckless burning, assault and battery, and I think that basically that was it.
What did you
Those three
assault?
charges.
I know,
Altogether, that was a year and a half in jail I faced, and I
Wow.
had to stand trial in Tucson City Court.
Who did you assault? I remember that you didn't touch anybody. What happened?
No, there was a little bit of pushing and shoving, and it
Okay.
doesn't matter what actually happened. One of the reporters that I actually said was encouraging him to leave the area because if the place is filled up with reporters, all of the space occupied, we can't start a fire and burn a flag. Public safety. You see, you may have a right, but as a practical matter, you can't exercise that right if you're in the middle of a crowd. You have to have space. And the space was half filled with reporters. And so I told them, you get out. They said, we're the press. We have a right to be here. I says, you don't. I said, you're simply news reporters. We are demonstrating. You get out of here because if we set this flag on fire, you're going to catch on fire and burn up. Now get out of here. And they wouldn't. And so I called the police over. Hey, get these guys out of here. The police came over and told them they had to leave. All the media left, and now we have the room we need to give our speeches and burn those flags in open defiance of the pro-Raza marchers.
Yes,
You see,
yes.
that's how it practically came. And then later, even though the police at the scene, they didn't see any crime at all, the police officers on the scene, but later their bosses had charges filed with the city attorney, and they decided to prosecute me. And so 3 months later, I go on trial, and I was facing a year and a half in jail.
Wow. What happened? I remember that you're still here, so
Okay.
how ended up?
We had a trial. I put on evidence, and I didn't have a lawyer to represent me then, so I
Yes.
defended myself. I put on evidence, and the judge said not guilty.
Yes.
And he said not guilty because I was the only one charged, but there was one other person who burned a second flag that same day. And they're trying to say that we did damage to the Armory Park, to the shuffleboard court, reckless burning. They created damage to the property. That's what they were. They weren't charging us with flag burning. They were charging us with damaging the property by virtue by the effect of the burning. And so the problem they had was two people burned two different flags on the same spot. And they couldn't tell. Was it Warden's burning that did it, or was it this other person that we haven't charged? Was it them? And so now they got this impossible situation, and now we have police officers on the stand who are giving testimony. These were officers that were on the scene, and I'll tell you quite frankly, they were pissed off that those charges were filed against me.
Yeah.
And so they gave very, very, very wonderful testimony.
Wow, excellent. I'm so glad that you did not take any plea guilty. Sometimes they try to put you in fear, and then of course people say, okay, I need to plead guilty for a misdemeanor or something less.
I just simply knew better. I knew better, and I wasn't going to let them push me around.
Yeah.
But you know what happened after that? There was so many bad reports in the newspapers about me being a racist and being a violent person and a killer. It ruined my business. I had a business as a legal document preparer. I lost all of my clients, and eventually, within 6 months, I'm homeless and living in the streets.
Oh, my
And I
gosh.
have no income. I'm homeless. I'm living in shelters. I was reduced to that
So sad.
as a consequence of that first event.
I'm so sad about that. I didn't know this final part. I knew that you were able to prove the point and to make it through, but I didn't know about this. Now, I'm sorry about that. Seriously, are you retired now? What are you doing? I don't want to go too much into personal.
I've got retirement. I've got veterans benefits, which I didn't have then because I didn't know how to get them. Didn't know I was entitled to them,
Yeah.
and now I have Social Security. So now I'm doing relatively well.
Okay.
I've got $1,000 a month in income and a
Okay.
subsidy, a one-bedroom apartment.
Okay.
And so I'm living extremely well compared to where I was living 2 years ago. Even
Wow.
up until 2 years ago, I was homeless, and it doesn't mean I'm living in the street. I had to stay with friends. I had all kinds of unsatisfactory relationships in order to survive. But I was able to live. But now I'm on my own. I've got money coming in, my income. I've got my own place. I'm doing extremely well as far as that.
I'm so glad, and I pray for you because unfortunately, there's always a price. Like during our revolution, our history. All the founding fathers, all the people who fought, for our principles of this republic. They put everything on the line. They put everything, and they lost, many of them, everything. Not just, of course, their lives, but also they lost their wealth. Their homes were burned. And you see now, many people that they're trying to do the right thing. There's always it's very tough. It is very tough. So I'm glad that today we're talking.
Some of the worst part of it actually came from right-wing people, Republicans that had businesses that used illegal labor for construction. Yeah. They were very angry at me, and Republican Party spoke out against me, and they made me a pariah. I expected, of course, the left-wing people not to like me, but even worse were the local Republicans who said, well, he's a nut. He's stirring up all this trouble with the Mexicans. And they didn't care. None of the Republican Party then cared about open borders. Randy Graff did. He was a political candidate, but the party rejected him. It wasn't until Obama was elected that Republicans started to stand up and say we're gonna be against this open border stuff.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was Obama's election, but they didn't care in 2006.
Of course, Bush was pushing it, and so all the senators.
Of course, Bush was pushing it.
They wanted the North America Union. Listen, let's go back now to. I'm glad that this is important, listeners, because when we talk about Second Amendment, you understand why it's so important. This is not for hunting. This is not for shooting at targets. This is not even to look cool and put a camo on. This is about to exercise and defend your basic human rights. And we are in America, and more important, we are in the great state of Arizona. And I challenge anybody around Europe to even try to do something like that. And I wish, and I pray you could. I wish everyone in the world could exercise this right. I'm so sorry. I feel sorry for my brothers and sisters in Italy that they are completely unarmed, disarmed, and so the other friends that I have in Germany. I wish you would have this right, and I hope that maybe you're gonna get it. But this is why we are so important to talk about it, because this is not just in the books or in the movie. This is real. We can do it. We have to do it.
Yes.
To keep it alive.
Yes, we can. You're right. We can. Here in America, we can.
Exactly.
And let me just add one more thing.
Yes.
The purpose of an armed citizenry with the Constitution, the very greatest fear in the minds of the people living there before they formed the American government and had the Constitution written, they feared standing armies. They knew if we created a permanent army, then the people would be subjected to the tyranny of their own army. And so the point was, we the people as individuals had a right to carry arms because someday we may have to defend ourselves against our own government, our own tyrannical government, because governments tend to become tyrannical. It's the natural process by which people, when they become involved in government, they get carried away with their power. This is natural. The evil wasn't just England. The evil was government, and it was a British government oppressing us, but they knew once we formed our own government, we would be subjected to tyranny. And so we had the right to keep arms to defend ourselves against a tyrannical government.
Exactly. Now, look, at the time, you need we had open carry, of course, but we still needed like a concealed permit. Now, we don't need any permit because the permit is our right, our Second Amendment right. So that means now we can conceal in the state of Arizona the last few years, at least 6 years, I guess, with our constitutional carry law that was passed in Phoenix. And you don't need anymore a permit to conceal a gun or shotgun, whatever you want. All you need to be is to be a law-abiding person with no criminal record. That's it.
Well, you're right about that, but it's not just Arizona. It's actually sweeping the country.
Yes.
More states now have open and concealed carry than ever had before. This has been voted in, and one of the biggest movements, but one of the biggest purpose behind this is women.
Yes.
Women that are tired of being beaten up and tired of being raped and all of that. They are the biggest ones buying weapons and the biggest ones behind the movement for everybody have a right to buy a weapon. as you know, in California, there are all kinds of restrictions because the laws are different in different states. But most of the other states have passed laws. Open carry and concealed carry is really the normal in many, many states. It didn't used to be, but now it is.
Yes, and this is why we are winning. We are pushing back. They're trying to completely destroy our rights, and I think finally, I really believe the American people, we are reaching at least a critical mass. For example, before used to be just Alaska and Vermont. Now we have Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, Kansas, Maine, Wyoming. We have constitutional carry states in these states, okay? If you're a resident in many of these states, you don't need any permit. All you need to do is to be a law-abiding person. That means you have no criminal record, and you can conceal a gun without paperwork. But remember, when we got, and I'm not talking to you, I'm talking about to the listeners, especially for the listeners probably from around the world. I have a lot of friends that listeners from Switzerland, from Germany. I mean, the moment that you need to ask for a permit to a government entity, you have no rights. It's called a privilege, because the government can say, I don't give you that permit. It's a permit. And guess what? We have a right. That's the bottom line. And I'm so proud to live here, and I wouldn't go anywhere else around the world just because of this reason. Now, let's talk about what's going on, because, I forgot that I didn't know that you were almost 70. You're getting up there. You look still great, at least on the photos, but, man, time passes for everybody. It was 10 years ago last time. So you're getting still I'm pretty impressed with you. You're still getting out, and you have some great idea that you want to try to put together for this coming week. Tell us exactly what is the event, the name, or whatever you want to call it, where and when.
All right.
Go ahead.
It's called the Justice for LaVoy Finicum Rally. It's a rally that's a consequent of what we think is the execution of that rancher up in Oregon a month ago. Actually, it was January 26th. He was rather than arrest him, they shot him down. They've got a film of this, and we've all seen this film on the internet. The film of this guy with his hands up in the air, and the 9 agents that were surrounding him, they shot him down like a dog. Rather than arrest him, they executed him.
Yes.
So we're having a march of a protest, and what I did on my announcement, I said, on this day, angry American citizens, some carrying what the media calls semi-automatic military-style assault rifles, will march on the federal courthouse in Tucson, Arizona, and submit a petition for redress of grievance to their government, expressing our anger about this act and demanding action be taken. We're going to have a loudspeaker. We're going to have all kinds of speeches, an excellent loudspeaker, by the way, and there's going to be some political candidates there, but mostly it's going to be angry Americans, some carrying guns, expressing their anger to their federal government about what appears to be the execution of LaVoy Finicum. And so I announced that, and we've had a tremendous response. In fact, this is the ironic part people don't understand. I got a call from the U.S. Marshal in the federal building.
Wow.
He's somebody I know and I've worked with for many, many years. He said, Roy, we would like to have the Tucson Police Department here because part of this will be concerning them, and we would like you to give us a briefing on what you're going to do.
Wow.
And so Thursday, 2 days ago, I had an hour-and-a-half meeting with these folks. We went in, we sat down, we turned our tape recorders down, and I will tell you, it was very cordial. They were very polite. They made it very clear they didn't want me to do this, but they also made it very clear they knew it was our right. They weren't going to interfere with the exercise of our right.
Wow.
They just had a few simple requests, and I'm talking about the U.S. Attorney and the U.S. Marshal and federal officials and police, Tucson police officials. The reason why Tucson was there is very simple. In the federal courthouse, there is a very clear line as you enter the property, a big plaza in front of the courthouse. There is the public sidewalk, which is Tucson City jurisdiction, and then once you cross that line, you're in federal jurisdiction where the marshal has control.
Yes.
We have 2 separate jurisdictions there. And so the marshal they have a rule at the court, a local rule that says you cannot bring firearms onto federal property or onto that piece of federal property. And so he said, we want to make sure nobody steps on the federal property with firearms.
Yes.
And so I said, we've already issued an order. We've already issued guidelines, a code of conduct. Don't step on the federal property. Stay off federal property and on Tucson City property. And before you go, study the Arizona revised statutes, study the Tucson City codes if you need to. What you don't want to do is you don't want to handle your weapons. Keep your weapons holstered. Keep your rifles, if you got them, on your shoulder sling to the rear. Don't stand there holding your weapons because everybody's very tense about this. Keep your hands off your weapons. Don't fight. Don't throw rocks, and don't shoot anybody. And if you do that, they don't care. They're going to protect public safety, and we get to give our speeches. What they don't want, and what I don't want, is any violence to break out.
Exactly.
Likely to come from somebody in our crowd, some guy wanting to be a patriot, and he's going to start a fight or he's going to shoot somebody. That's a very real possibility, and so we're concerned about that. But these federal officials and Tucson City officials, they were very cooperative. They're somewhat angry at me because they're tired of me creating all of this paperwork and problems for them. And I told them, I don't care. It's your job, and so we're going to do our job. We expect you to do your job.
Exactly.
If you see somebody pull out a gun in our crowd and is going to shoot somebody, take him out.
Yeah.
Shoot him. Grab him and arrest him if you can.
Yes.
Don't let violence happen. We don't want violence. If you see somebody breaking the law, take him down. But we won't break the law. We're not there breaking the law. We're there exercising our rights protected by law to be there. And they all understood that.
Yes.
No argument at all. These are government agents. They all understand that. And so they're going to do their job on Friday. We're going to exercise our rights on Friday, and we're all hoping it comes out well, and I'm sure that it will.
Yes, and this is so important. First of all, everybody is responsible for their own actions, whatever they say or whatever they do. I don't believe in any type of collective sense of guilt. Somebody makes a mistake or breaks the law, is the one to pay. And also I want to say, the normal person that I know, I've been doing different things, not like this, but we do, for example, in Mojave County, I started a few years ago what I called the Thomas Jefferson walk in the park. Thomas Jefferson used to write a letter to his nephew, say, don't do a violent sport like playing with the ball, but walk with your gun, walk with your rifle. It's very good for your mind, very good for your spirit and your body. So that's what we do. We go in the park and we walk with rifles in friends, family, neighbors, and we enjoy. Always do it right. That means we know the Arizona laws. We know that we need to carry the weapon in a safe and also lawful way in the holster or with a sling. And we don't brandish weapons. That's the bottom line. And we also, of course, when you keep the weapon like that, the safety is there right now already. But at the point, I always worry about if there is, and sometimes can be, some, let's say, agent provocateur. And that can happen anywhere. There are crazy people that try to infiltrate or they try to maybe look people bad. Guess what? Too bad. Because first of all, you're going to face it from the law enforcement in this case. But I tell you, when you have a crowd, and I know that I've been many of these type of rallies and I never found any idiot. Normally people that come to this type of rally, they are law-abiding people. Otherwise, they couldn't not even carry a weapon, okay? Sometimes they're a little enthusiast, but I never found any person that ever committed any type of bad things. But let's say somebody is stupid enough to go being surrounded by patriots that I wouldn't do any stupid things if I was a bad person in that type of crowd. Let's put it this way, because you don't just get it from the cops. You may also get it from people that they're there trying to exercise their rights.
Absolutely.
So that's the point. This is not like some sort of, unarmed crowd in Sweden, okay? I mean, I'm sure 80% of the people coming to their rally, they have something on them, and if they have to do it, they will use it to defend the peace and to defend the innocents. Great. I'm excited.
I've got some very unpleasant thing to tell you.
Go ahead.
I've been contacted by two militia groups, Arizona militia groups and California militia groups, and they've gone online posting Roy Warden is a federal agent. He's leading you into a trap. He's leading you to an ambush. Don't go to his rally because you'll be killed if you do. This is what they've written on Facebook.
Wow.
This is what they've told people. They don't want anybody to come to the rallies. They think it's a trap, and they're just full of absolute nonsense.
Wow.
But that's what they posted. I'll send you I've done screenshots of the postings. I will send you that.
You know,
people that are running militia groups, and they don't understand the way the law works. They're always saying we have to overthrow the government.
Wait.
We have to violently overthrow. But they don't even want to come to a rally wearing guns because they're afraid to. They're afraid to ever go to a place where they might have to use those guns.
Right. Let me stop you,
self-defense.
Let me stop you, Santi. You say the magic word. Maybe I didn't. My ears are kind of tired tonight. Did I hear California?
There was one group from California,
okay.
And I'm trying to think. I can't remember the guy's name.
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
Okay, stop.
He's got a group.
Stop. Let's stop there. Scratch that. Who cares what the group from California tell us in Arizona what we can do? They cannot even tie their shoes without asking for a permit from the government, okay? So forget about that.
He was going to bring people. Originally, he tried to organize with me. He was going to bring 200 people.
Yeah, right.
And then I told him, I showed him some of the things I planned to say. He says, you're going to get everybody killed. I said, I've already said these things in many demonstrations. Yeah. They're legal and lawful to say these things. He says, well, you're going to get people killed. I'm not going to come. And then he told other people. And then somebody from a militia here in Arizona, he said, Roy Warden is crazy. He's going to get you killed. Okay. This guy doesn't know anything.
Okay, everybody...
He doesn't know anything at all about any of this.
Right, everybody's coming to this event. I'm sure he's over 18. And if there are some minors, I'm sure the parents going to be with them. At that point, I always say everybody must use their brain. Everybody must look at facts, at the history of things and the people, and think, I don't think anybody can tell me what I can or cannot do. I can be there with or without the approval of anybody out there, okay? So the point is, all I can say, I know what you've been done all these years, and I know that you are a person that proven so far with facts, not with opinion, that you did not do anything unlawful, anything illegal. All you did, you weren't shy, for sure, and that's a good thing, to exercise your rights, to stand your ground the way we can do in Arizona. And I'm glad you had this opportunity to talk communicate at least with the federal government to let them know what are your intentions. It's always good to have a communication so there is no misunderstanding. And also the point that if there are crazy people, everything can happen. You are not responsible. Everybody is responsible for their actions. And I can say, anybody wants to go there, especially if you live in the Tucson area or Phoenix area or anywhere you can. Honestly, I don't know if I can. I'm kind of far away, but I'll try to be there. But my point is, this is something so important because if we do it right, and we'll do it right, we can remind to the rest of the world why we see now Europe, for example, being completely invaded and really physically assaulted. Look in Germany what happened during the first eve night, mass murdering and also this mass raping and completely people being afraid in their own homes. They cannot even step out of their own homes. In Arizona, we can still be in front of the public, in front of what's supposed to be our government, stand up, exercise our First Amendment, and do it with our Second Amendment. That doesn't mean that we need to shoot at people. No, it's just a reminder. For me, the gun is a philosophical symbol to remind that we are not slaves. Because remember, world out there, slaves were never, and they are never armed. And the fact that we are that right, we are not slaves. That's the point. Of course, we have a lot of problems we need to take care, but that's beside taxation, we have much more rights here. That's the point. So I commend you for that. And I wouldn't focus on these people. They have their opinion, whatever. Let them talk. All I can say, I want to give you again the microphone to remind the date, the time, if you have a website or a Facebook page where people can gather more information or contact you. Go ahead.
Right. It's very, very easy. There's a Facebook page. I didn't put it up. Other people did, and they're very good about it. It's called Justice for LaVoy Finicum. Again, Justice for LaVoy Finicum. You can find it on Facebook. There's a lot of things posted there. It's a really good site. Secondly, the date of the event will be March 4th. That's next Friday, March 4th, in front of the Tucson Federal Court. or the federal court in Tucson. It's 405 West Congress Street. It's right off the freeway when you're coming down from Phoenix or coming up from Sierra Vista. It's a very easy exit. It's right there, 405 West Congress, and it will be between the hours of 10 o'clock in the morning and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We'll be there for 4 hours.
Wow, you got more than 10,000 people talking about this right now on Facebook. Pretty exciting. And remember, we don't need a mob, 1 million people. Of course, it would be nice, don't get me wrong. The point is, you made your statement 10 years ago, when even just a man or an handful of men and women together, they can make a point just because they can. That's the bottom line. This is not about, of course, I wish we had 1,000 people. I wish we had 1 million people. But at this point, I don't care if it's 10 people or 100 people. The point is we can make a difference. And this is so important, especially in the time where the federal government is trying to completely try to confuse us or try to, lie to us that, we don't have a right. It's just a lawyer can change anything or a Supreme Court can change anything. No, it can't. That's our right, and we stand in front of them to remind them. Of course, this is important to remind to the people that they must have accountability, because LaVoy Finicum, you don't need to be, a Magnum PI investigator or some sort of a genius to see he was murdered in cold blood. So we need to find a way at least to speak about it and to keep putting pressure about it. But also at the same time, it's a great opportunity. That's why I wanted to invite you during the second hour. That's why for me this is more important than talking about now tactical reload, emergency reload, and all the different things that they're very important, of course, how to shoot straight. But I'm talking about the idea why we have this right. And we got to exercise it. So I pray people will go there, and it can be a great opportunity. The weather's going to be great. So far, we have a great spring. It's not too hot. I know Tucson normally gets pretty warm early, but how is the weather right now? What type of weather do we have down there?
It's going to be 85 to 90. So it's going to bring water. It's going to be hot. Bring water. If you need sunscreen, bring sunscreen. So that those are important things. Yeah. But mainly, we're going to let everybody speak. We're going to give the microphone to everybody to speak. And I've only made a couple of prohibitions in terms of the speech. I said, I don't want to hear any racist stuff. I don't want to hear any white supremacy stuff. Yes. This is not a forum for that. If you want to speak, you can say those things, but not through my microphone.
Exactly.
I can't tell you what to say, but if you say racist things, I will turn my microphone off.
Yeah, it's your microphone. So
that's the only rule.
Exactly.
Only rule.
And, as I said before, it's been proven. This is not an opinion. I mean, there was a famous talk radio host a few years ago, 5 years ago, I forgot his last name, that it was some sort of, let's say, always try to incite racial and try to say very tough, very criminal things, like kill the judge, do that, do this. Then guess what? He got arrested. And then when he was in court, he said, by the way, I work for the FBI. And the FBI said, yeah, he works for us. And the judge didn't care. He still put him 5 years in jail, okay? So the point is there are, unfortunately, let's say, agent provocateurs out there. And this has been proven many times, especially in these groups that some of them, they call themselves these white supremacists, whatever. They infiltrate everybody. So I wouldn't be surprised somebody's trying to pull a fast one, but guess what? That's why we got to go there, because the good people can make a difference. And just with the presence, they cannot do what they want to do. That's the bottom line. So good job and congratulations for the idea. And please keep me posted. And, I'm exactly the other side of Arizona. It's Mojave County. And I'm trying to clear my stuff a little bit with family situation. But I really would like to be there and finally probably even at least meet you in person after all these years. That would be great.
Well, that'll be terrific. And if you can bring somebody that knows how to use a video camera, do that. Or if you want to use one, maybe you'll be busy doing other things.
No,
you're certainly welcome. We'd love to hear you speak. You can speak.
At least I think the video camera is the most important weapon we have, because we got to use it every day. We can use it every day, thankfully, because we got to put everything on record. First of all, to share it, because we want to show to the rest of the world what we can still do here in the great state of Arizona. That's so important. That's why it's like a virus. It's a good virus. I call it the antivirus, anti-tyranny. That's why when you start to show this type of activity, think about, for us could be normal, but think about, Roy, you are living right now, for example, in Italy, or maybe in Sweden, and you see this video of people, law-abiding people, okay, not people criminals, talking about people that they have a regular life, and they go in front of the federal government building, lawfully, exercising their First Amendment, something that in many countries in Europe you can do. If you just speak up about things that the government doesn't approve, like let's say you don't like the Muslim invasion, you're gonna get arrested and fined right there. But then do it with the rifle shoulder on your back on your shoulder, or maybe have a gun on your hip. Right there. That's almost like people think it's a movie. I have some friends of mine when we're doing the Thomas Jefferson walk here in Mohave County in the park. They thought there was some sort of a movie. Is that part of the movie? No, that's real. Okay, that's what we can do in this state. That's why I want to have people with cameras, do the videos, share with the world, and more important, show that we are still here and we are not going to go away. And LaVoy Finicum, we must completely find what happened, a real investigation. It must be a real due process to see exactly what happened. And everybody's innocent until proven guilty. Even LaVoy Finicum is still innocent because he never had the chance to go to a trial, number one. So for me, they killed an innocent man right there. And then we got to find out who are the people and why they did that, what they did. So anyway, excellent. Listen, I had to let you go. And I'll be in touch with you in case I cannot make it. But if I can, I'll be let you know anyway. In case I cannot make it, I hope I'm going to hear from you again. And I would like to have the follow-up of what happened, okay? You promise me that?
I will, and if we're successful, you'll see it on your TV that night.
Excellent.
Very simply.
Very good, yeah. Roy. Listen, my prayer for you, and I appreciate everything you've done all these years, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Don't go
away. You have
a
good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, this is Luca Zan. I know we're supposed to have talked about the latest deal on ammunition and, some techniques I wanted to talk to you about, especially dry practice technique with the handgun. I thought this was too important, way too important. Now, listen, the hour is almost finished. We will go for hour number 3. We'll talk about love. We have an interesting human case. An older man is a senior man, is a veteran, and he has some really serious health problems. And at the same time, think about it, they want to throw him out of his house. And the bankers, talking about illegal foreclosure, they want this guy to live under the bridge. I'm no lawyer, I don't know everything, but I think I tell you something. We got to listen to what he has to say, because this is, after all, why we're fighting all this. We must be remembering that we are human beings and we want to help each other, okay? This is not the government. We are here as humans. We do charity. We want to help people because we want, not because we are forced. That's number one. So I'm here for the show. This is the purpose. So please listen to this gentleman. Then I have a final part of the final hour. It's kind of funny. I got my brother from Italy. Can you believe that? You want to be ready about crazy accents? Here we go. Anyway, listen, and don't forget, if you want to support the show, please don't be cheap. I need your help. This is not NPR, okay? We do not steal your money with the tax dollar. Go to my site, at least one of my sites. I go to zanna, zanna.us, and for just 99 cents, you can download any of my songs. Don't go away.